What's happening, YouTube? Back in the day, Gamer here. Thanks for tuning into my channel for this episode of Games I Beat in 2023. Guess how many games I beat? So we're gonna do this in order of how I beat the games. So the first game I beat in 2023, early January, was a handheld Game Boy title called Fortified Zone. This is a good game. It's a strange cross between Metal Gear and Contra. It's a super obscure title. I mean, I'm big into Game Boy, and I'm only just hearing about it now. I did hear about it from Mr. Matthews. He's the one who turned me on to it. He does a lot of Game Boy videos. This one is solid fun. It's a little short, and it's pretty easy. There's just a few tough spots. I definitely recommend it. It's getting a thumbs up. Fortified Zone. Second game I beat was a Game Boy Advance title that I immediately put in my junk bin after I played through it. I don't know why I got it in the first place. We're just gonna mention it here because I beat it. It was the second game, Strawberry Shortcake on the Game Boy Advance. This was not a good game. It was just, I mean, it's a Strawberry Shortcake game, so obviously it's for kids. It was laughably easy. There was one cool board, I think it's the end one, where you're flying, it's like a shoot 'em up. I don't know. Not a great game, but I beat it. And then I pitched it immediately into my get rid of bin. And that's where it is now. It's why I don't have it. But the third game I beat of the year. Fantastic title. One I heard a lot about for many years, which, you know, we'll touch on. But that game is the first NES game of the year, Journey to Silus. I'm definitely not a sci-fi guy, way more fantasy or swords and sorcery, so this game was never a must-play for me. That and the fact that everyone says the difficulty is straight NES tough had it on the back burner, but I did want to play it. After playing through it, I can confirm it is a really good game with a banging soundtrack. I found the difficulty to be more only mediocre NES tough. It was not NES tough. There's a couple rough parts, but I just expected it to be way more difficult. But Journey to Silus is a solid game I highly recommend. It's not one of my favorite NES titles, but it deserves to be up there because it's good. I can see why everyone says it was supposed to be a Terminator game for a few more reasons than just obvious end bosses. But apparently, I am awesome. Next up on the list is a Switch title, super unique, Evoland. I have it digital, so there's no cartridge or case to show you, but what an awesome concept for a game. You start off with super low-grade graphics and gameplay, you know, at the Game Boy screen. Then you advance your way up to NES, 8-bit color, through the 16 to 32 to the 64-bit, and so on. I liked a lot about this game, but it wasn't great. It's only like a 3-hour gameplay, so it, you know, definitely could have been longer. I did not like the Diablo type section of the game. I don't like those kind of games. It's always too dark and repetitive. That's why I never really played them. So the end boss was cool and looked great. Definitely worth the $5 I spent for this on the Switch eShop. Evoland was also one of the games that I started like 2 years ago, got all the way to the end and got frustrated and then shelved it, only to buckle down and say, I'm finishing my backlog. Go back and find out that I am at the very end of the game and then easily beat it. And boom, chalk another one up on the list. Since we had the Switch out, we jumped right to another Switch game, which once again was digital. This game was great. I wish I had a physical copy, but I don't, so I can't show it to you. But that game is Fight and Rage. So it was the very next day, in an attempt to clean up my Switch digital game backlog, that I went right to this one after Evoland, and Fight and Rage is the most badass rock and roll muscle-bound beat-em-up I have ever played. This game has so much going for it. First, one of the absolute coolest touches to any video game I have ever seen. They make the screen look like it's an actual monitor from an arcade cabinet. Awesome! The graphics in this game are fantastic. It's got that pixelated, new, old style that I really have come to like, especially in this game. It has the absolute most rocking soundtrack ever. The enemies are unique and cool as hell. Some of them are very badass, but none are as badass as the character I chose to play with. A giant, muscle-bound Minotaur. The only part of this game that I didn't like was that he was a bit slow and clunky, but like every time I bitch about that, I realize I'm playing with the muscle-bound meathead. The final boss was tough as hell, so exactly like Evoland before this, I got all the way to the end, became frustrated, and shelved it. Since I had no physical copy, I ended up forgetting all about it. When you beat this game, which you will when you play it because it's so awesome you can't put it down, it definitely leads into a sequel, so I'm super psyched for that. Hopefully by this point, Fightin' Rage 2 is already out. And as I'm editing this video, I'm gonna make a note to check the eShop because holy shit, Fightin' Rage. I'm not a big beat 'em up guy, but that's a beat 'em up. Around this time we're into April. Year started off slow, so I said shit. My normal goal to beat 50 games a year, which never happens, realized I was way behind, so Fisher Price, Firehouse Rescue. I did it, yay! Subset complete, trilogy. Now it's time for some bangers. I never cared for this game. It was because of the controls. My quest to collect and beat every NES game. Saw a video, I'm like tossing it in. Russian Attack. This game started off tough as hell. Straight NES tough. Part of the reason why I never played it much, because you toss it in to play it a bit and it's just super tough and frustrating. You know, I never liked this game because of that, so I never played much of it. Once I got used to the controls, which the difficult part is jump is up every time they do that, it's stupid, I started liking it. Even though it's only a 6-level, 15-minute game, it took me a solid week to beat. Oddly enough, the Nboard was by far the easiest. That's weird. I should have flip-flopped that and made first stage easy and the last one hard, but at this time I was in a war game mode, so we switched over to one that I got far in but never beat before until now. POW. Congratulations. How many games have that fucking translation error in it, right? Well, this one does. POW is a solid, fun staple of most people's Nintendo collections from back in the day. It was not as hard as I remembered it being. You know, obviously I'd played this game many times and toss it in here and there. Always end up getting frustrated, but it didn't end up giving me much trouble. So, you know, that's why it's on this list. I definitely see replaying this one on the regular. Sticking with a theme, after Russian Attack, POW, we went to Heavy Barrel. Once again, I did not like this game at first. I picked it up a long time ago, played it once, and shelved it. I posted on social media what should the third game in my trilogy of warfare be, and several people, including Megadan, suggested this one. The controls are a bit choppy, and I don't care for the graphics or the bad auto-scrolling, but once I got into it, I really liked it. It's pretty short and not too tough, but the end guide did take a while to beat. So we're getting towards the end of April here. I'm plowing through games. I switched up the genre a little to a game, probably because I saw someone do a video on it, but hidden gem alert right here, roller games. Had this one for a while. Sticker says I picked it up for $3.99. Roller games is a funny concept. In this game, the controls are great. The graphics are decent, it's got cool boss battles. The last two levels are bullshit with picture perfect jumps on moving platforms and even worse, fucking conveyor belts that switch the directions. Oh, I hate that shit. I really like the end stage on this game, and it looks like it's straight out of Double Dragon. But I do recommend this game, Roller Games. Hidden gem alert, look out! We've been powering through some NES titles, so I figured I'd switch it up and play one of my favorite consoles that doesn't get much love because there's no room in the game room for the collection, so they're over in the other room and I forget about them. But we tossed in Astro Warrior. Astro Warrior on the Sega Master System is a crappy run-of-the-mill shooter with jerky controls. It's got mediocre graphics and sound. There's only 3 looping stages, and this game is nothing to write home about. It's about an 8-minute playthrough, and guess what? I no death ran it. That's right, yeah. So since, boom, no death ran it, you know, after not long of tossing it in, went over to the Sega Master System shelf and pulled out another one. This was one I'd wanted for a really long time. Got it not too long ago, didn't put much play in it. I figured I'm taking it down. Sega card game, Transbot. Guess what? Double Sega Master System no death run. That's right, April 30th was the day I pulled that off. Doubt that'll ever happen again. Write that one down in the annals of time. These Sega card games always interested me. I don't know why it took so long to pick up Transbot, but it's got decent graphics. It's got great background. It's, you know, cool idea, the game mechanics there where you're a robot and you power up, transforming into a robot. You know, this was an easy 5-minute no death run to just do that first loop playthrough. So in May I had beat 0 games. Well, I guess I was busy enjoying some warm weather. But as soon as June started, this game is lucky number 13. Happens to be my number 1 pick. Games I beat in 2023, which I just put out the video before this. My top 3 favorite games I beat. Spoiler, this one tops the list. That is Dragon Warrior. This game was way better than I remembered. This was probably the first RPG I ever played back in the day. Until this playthrough, I just recalled it not holding up well, you know, too grindy. You had to select stairs to climb the damn stairs. Just things like that just made me not ever want to throw it in again, even though I'm a huge RPG fan. But for whatever reason, I decided to replay it, probably because I have to beat every NES game, and even though I did remember beating this back in the day, I didn't count it because I didn't actually have it logged, so it was going on my list. And I tell you what, this game, this playthrough, I just had a blast. I love the maps and monster manuals it came with, lots of colorful enemies, power-ups, towns to explore. The turn-based combat and grinding are kind of my thing, so Dragon Warrior is right up my alley, straight up my jam. And at this point, I can't wait to dive into number 2, which I obviously already have. But we're not going to talk about that because I haven't beat it yet. But, you know, putting 3 and 4 next in line on the backlog. I did an episode of What's Happening YouTube on playing this way back in the day. I'd babysit my cousins. I'd take the box with me with the manual and the strategy guide, the maps, monster chart, all that. You know, I really liked that episode, so I'll probably put a link in the comments section below. But not only did I like that, I really like this game. And I also really like when you get to the Dragon Lord at the end, it asks you if you'd like to join him. But that's another story. Next up, actually, that was my number 1 game I beat of the year, and this just happens to be my number 2 game I beat of the year. Baseball Stars 2. So once again, I am calling Hidden Gem Alert. Baseball Stars 2 is the second best baseball game on the system, and for the longest time I thought it sucked. But it's actually just like the first one. it's not quite as good. And the first one is hands down my favorite baseball game on the system. Both Baseball Star games have fantastic gameplay. The controls are just super tight and spot on. You know, back in the day, gamer loves him some RPG, and it's got those RPG customizing elements. You win games, earn money, power up your players, build your own team until they're powered up enough to beat #1 team in the league, which I can't remember their name, but they're all named after famous baseball players, which is fitting. So for all the things that this game had going for it, why in the hell would you not be able to change your player names? In the first one you could, but not in the second one? I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. But the gameplay is where it's at. It makes this game awesome. But one little twist that I really liked is how when you're playing the league play, it actually tracks your batting average. It was not like that in the first one. In the first one, your batting average had to do with how powered up your hitting and batting stats were. And in this one, it actually tracks it. But that's in the league play, just in the league play. Baseball Stars 2. I like it. Moving on. July 1st. Into July. Finally getting us into some Super Nintendo. This is, once again, well, no, I can't say a hidden gem, because this is not a gem. But this is falls into the category of games you probably never heard of. And you probably have never heard of Power Pigs of the Dark Ages. Beating this one made me feel good, because what made me toss it in was SNESDrunk did a video on it, and in his video he admits how he could not beat it. Well, guess what? I did. I got this game a long time ago, and when I picked it up I had never heard of it, and I haven't heard anything of it until SNESDrunk put his video out. I always liked it because it's really weird and I dig the graphics. Sadly, the controls are floaty and not great. The story is definitely one of a kind. It's something like you're a pig in medieval times and you're searching for a donut, and the evil wizard, I guess, took them all or something. That's a story for you, right? Well, anyway, this Power Pigs of the Dark Ages, cool graphics, cool sprites, nice background. There's some awesome bosses, especially the end one, who's not only 2 forms, but takes up the entire screen. And you know how I like that. I plan to do a review type, one of those games you never heard of vids on this one. Because you know, until now, you more than likely have not heard of it. This next one on the Game Boy is going to be a huge surprise. I mean, no one knows everything. I don't claim to even be near knowing everything, but I tend to know a lot about Nintendo and the Game Boy. And this launch title on the Game Boy, who I've had from the launch and played hundreds of hours of until just now, didn't know it had an end. Tetris on the Game Boy. It has an end. Yeah, all these years I had no idea this was a thing. And I played this game a fucking lot. I saw Linda, aka the Gamer Girl, post a pic of her beating it, so I needed to see what was up. Playing this mode, I was hooked right off the bat. I was like glued to the TV for an hour and a half of non-stop, super fast-paced action before I finally took this one down. And I was having so much fun with it, I wasn't satisfied, so 5 minutes later, I took it down again. As you can see, it's a randomly placed line completion countdown from 25. I was a little disappointed you didn't have to clear the whole screen, but I definitely like this B-type option of gameplay. Sticking with handhelds, moving over to the Game Gear, Ninja Gaiden. I give this one's graphics an A for the Game Gear. The controls are spot on, tight, especially the jumping. Soundtrack's pretty good too. The game itself was child's play easy, aside from the level 2 boss, which I found to be the toughest aside from the last. Other than the last board, each stage was like laughably easy. The patterns on half of the bosses are just strangely easy as well. I'm not shitting on this game. I did enjoy it, and I also intend to do a little review video on the games you probably never knew existed playlist on my channel, but you know, we'll see if I actually get to it. The end boss gave me some trouble because its third form didn't have as much of a set pattern, but since I'm stubborn, I persevered and beat his ass. Game Gear is my smallest collection, but some of the ones I have are pretty damn good. So while we're on the subject, what are some more Game Gear games I should get? My favorite one is Vampire, the port of the Master System, Master of Darkness, Castlevania clone. That's my favorite Game Gear title. That I have, but I only have a handful of games, and half of them I really like, so throw some more Game Gear titles at me. I need to pick up. I didn't beat any games in August, because it was August and I was outside having fun. But in the beginning of September, I took down a game I've been working on for a while. I believe when I first started to play it, the save went bad, and I didn't want to start over, but I wanted to take it down, so I did start over. And this is actually my third favorite game of all the games I beat in 2023. And if you watched the top 3 games that I beat in 2023, which you should have, if not, pause it and go watch it now, you'd know that it's Star Tropics 2, Zoda's Revenge. Both Star Tropic games are really good. Both games are very similar. Graphics, sound, story, all very good, very similar. Controls are a little stiff, which is their weakest point. I can't believe that both of these games are so cheap. You know, you hear a lot about the first game, but not so much about this one. I'm not exactly sure why I like Zoda's Revenge better, and just a little better, but I do. This one played through easier for me. I did, of course, play them like 5 years apart, so maybe I'm forgetting something, but I definitely know I like them both. The boss rush at the end of this really capped it off for me with a bang. Next game I played, I've got this tabletop arcade machine that's got, you know, a Pandora in it. It's got like 1,200 games. Sometimes I like to play some arcade games. I don't emulate or anything. I know that's emulating, but that's how I play them. So I play them. So one day I was sitting around playing them, and the first game I took down was King of Dragons. This is a solid hack and slash beat 'em up. I love the knockoff of the D&D theme. You got level ups, weapon upgrades. There aren't that many variations of enemies, but there are a lot of cool boss battles. While I had it out, I kept playing arcade games, and one I wanted to take down for a while was G.I. Joe. And take it down I did. While an okay arcade title, this game's very short and not nearly as good of a playthrough as King of Dragons was. I am a huge G.I. Joe fan. I was very unsatisfied that there was no Zartan or Dreadnoks in this game. Shame on you. Next up, Blades of Steel. Nope, just kidding. I beat it, and then after I beat it, I went to my spreadsheet and saw that I had already beat it. So, no Blades of Steel. Next up is sort of a game changer for me, because with the phone, up until now, no, not up until now, I'm gradually liking this series more and more. And playing this one, though not my favorite of the series, really sparked my interest in it more and made me appreciate it that much more. And I'm talking about none other than the Blue Bomber, Mega Man 4. I found this game to be damn hard. Short levels, but tough bosses. Once you get the patterns down, some are still a pain in the ass though, even when you get the patterns down. Especially Ringman. Out of all the Mega Man games I've played so far, this was the toughest Dr. Wily sequence yet. Second to the end was brutal, but the final form wasn't too bad. Obviously, with the Dr. Wilys and the bosses, once you get the patterns down, everything becomes, well, once you know, you just know, and then it's a lot easier. But until then, it's tough, and you know, back in the day, gamer doesn't look things up, so I'm winging this, just like it was a rental back in the day. just 2 games left, and since it's the end of the year, it's Christmas time. So I was trying to play some Christmas-themed games. So here's one that you might not know anything about, but you do now. Gremlins. Stripe vs. Gizmo. So here is a Christmas-themed game that has some super true to the movie content. Not so much the gameplay, especially since I played with Stripe, but the backgrounds really held true to the movie for sure. The movie theater being my absolute favorite. I loved that scene in the movie, and I loved it in this game. Not only do they do a great job throughout the board, but the scene where you climb up the actual movie screen itself is fucking stellar. Now, obviously, I had to pick Stripe, right? I mean, well, you've got a choice, you're picking Stripe. Well, I heard when playing with him, for some reason, there are no boss fights, so I have to go back and play with Gizmo, but I haven't done that yet, so I still have to. But the end, the background here, the final battle is the fountain, just like in the movie, and I think that it is cool as shit. I had to fight Gizmo like 20 times before I could beat him. He's really bouncy and hard to hit until I just got lucky and caught him in the corner and drained all his life, spammed him out at once. And that kind of sucked, but the game itself, the gameplay is especially stellar, so I wasn't actually devastated by that. But hey, I beat it. The last game of the year I beat, another Christmas themed game on the GBA, which I'm a big fan of GBA. It's I just keep finding titles I like. I like this. It's not a banger, but I like it, and it is none other than Elf to finish out the year. Well, license-based movie game. Here we go. What do you think's gonna happen? Knowing full well this game is not fantastic, the day I beat it was Christmas Eve. So we're all getting into the Christmas spirit. You know, it's got those blocky GBA graphics that I don't super care for, but it does them well. The movie screenshots looked really good, and despite not having an actual face, Will Ferrell's sprite looks good. Looks like Will Ferrell. It's strange how accurate he's compared to the movie. Like when he walks with his arms swinging, he's got that loping gait that perfectly reminds me of Will Ferrell in the movie. This game is just a collection of not great mini games that are definitely on a children's-based difficulty level. Aside from the board on the street and collecting bells in Santa's sleigh, the game is like without challenge. That being said, for some reason I don't hate it. It does have parts that follow the movie, which I love. Not the parts, but the movie. And Will Ferrell is just so damn funny. All in all, this isn't a great game, I'm not gonna lie to you, but it hit the spot while I listened to Christmas music on Christmas Eve morning. Fuck, I was gabbing so long the camera shut off. I'm not sure what we missed. And I'm not gonna go back. So hopefully we didn't miss much. I think it just got cut off at the end of me talking about Elf. And since it's not that great of a game, but I like it, you don't really need to know much more than that. We're wrapping it. In 2023, Back in the Day Gamer once again fell well short of his gaming goal of 50 games to take down. New adventures, that is. This, we're not talking about games I beat before, because if so, Contra's going to be on there 50 times and whatnot, but these are only games that I'm beating for the first time, or beat since way back in the day. And in 2023, it ended up being 23 titles. Didn't plan it, that just happened. I played a fair amount of games. I tried to give up on games less. That's why there was really that few titles, because there was times when I wanted to just shelve the game and I said, no, not doing that anymore. No matter how long it takes, beating the fucker. And beating these I did. Some were tough, some weren't. I recommend, like I said, my top 3: Dragon Warrior, Baseball Stars 2, Zoda's Revenge. My least recommendation would be Fisher-Price Firehouse Rescue. Thanks for tuning into my channel. Let me hear in the comments the top 3 games you beat, and don't forget, let me know what Game Gear games I still need to have, because I'm digging some Game Gear titles. So, thanks for tuning into my channel. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Until next time, YouTube, keep it retro.